came in again, and continuation of what we've been doing here is answering questions from different people send questions to us. I was mentioning that the only thing is that we don't have like the full context of what's all that's going on. We just have the question, and we are answering these questions in a way where every person can benefit from it one way or the other, because we're touching so many different points, and in relationships, in marriages. So I think that it's helpful because we can now use our imagination. We don't have to violate confidentiality because we're not speaking about anybody from our practice per se. So it just also gives us some freedom to be able to really unpack this. So before we get started here today on this question that came in, where I'm gonna read the question and we're getting this kind of back it up a little bit, where this wife said, "My husband is a very selfish person. He only cares about his work and never really bothers himself about me. I have been tolerant for many years now, but I can't take it anymore. I also work full time and take care of the house. What should I do?" So before we get diving in the question, how are you today, Goumah?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm doing well today.
Yeah,
How are you?
I'm doing really good. Thank you. Doing really good. I wish that this I had recognized what the problem was with my microphone earlier, and that would be yeah. But I'm doing great.
It's
Yeah,
okay. This stuff we have to get used to it, right?
you're right.
So,
Exactly. Exactly. And I got on here a bit earlier so I could actually set everything up and get
yeah,
ready to get started.
yeah. I'm
But here
sure
we are.
we have some gracious followers who
Yeah, and
who
that's where we're so
who feel
privileged that we have
critical.
people who are understanding and are very gracious. So we're counting on that, and thank you for joining us and for being patient and gracious towards us. So
Mhm.
with that said, we want to kind of dive right into this question, and
How's your week going though? How's
yeah,
your Monday starting
thank
off?
you for asking. Week was really well. Actually, I'm getting over a sore throat. It's amazing. I did a
Oh,
recording last week, and I'm not sure if you recognize, but my voice was very raspy, and it's been
mhm.
bothering me on and off for some time. And I listened to a video. I was an interview as a guest on a show, and it came out today, and I was listening to that. I'm thinking, where did this voice come from? It's this deep, raspy voice. My wife said to me, for those who are, this is dating me right now. She said, "Are you Barry White?" That deep.
One of my favorite
Me
musicians.
too. Me too. Right. For people who are not in that era, Barry White was one of those deep baritone voices, and
That's
so
right. That's right.
I love his voice. And so she said to me
Mhm.
that I have that voice, that Barry White. And so, yeah, and
Mm,
I'm thinking, but it has really gotten better.
good.
And so thank you for asking. How about your week?
You're welcome. Sorry about that. Yeah, my week has been going well. It's been a little scattered, but good overall.
Mhm.
Juggling different
Yes.
things.
Yeah.
Yeah, just this morning ran one kid to the airport, did this, did that,
Oh,
and
wow.
so it's
Mm.
been, but counted all joy.
Amen. Amen. Yes,
Hmm.
that's right. I mean, that's
Hmm.
one thing when you have the college age and you have them
Yes,
all, here and there. And
yes,
thank God mine are adults now. They're on their own.
exactly.
So I don't have to, but I knew that stage before. And that
Yeah,
person, anyone who's listening to us today, they know having kids, it just really, there's the unpredictable nature of that,
that's
because one
right.
day it goes this way, another day it goes another way,
That's
right?
right. That's correct. So
Yeah.
flexibility is key.
Oh my
Flexibility
goodness.
on your end and those you interact with. Everyone must be flexible.
Yeah. And that's where I think many times relationships, I think, where if there's not flexibility in a relationship and adaptability, I find many times that becomes an error, because some people are so fixated on certain things and want to be right,
Mm-hmm.
and they're so adamant about being right,
Hmm.
that it does create issues. So yes, you're right, being able to be flexible, I think, one of
Hmm.
the hallmark for successful marriages and relationships, right?
Yes, I would agree. I would
Hmm.
agree. Hmm.
Yeah, no, I mean, I can speak for myself, being married for 38 years, and my wife could
Hmm.
attest to that as well. She's been very, very patient and flexible with me, especially me, because I had a lot of growing to do, and
Hmm.
my own headstrong way in doing certain things. And
Hmm.
so I think that but the flexibility, I think, has caused us to be at this
Hmm.
for 38 years and counting. So I think it's a
Hmm.
very important aspect of relationships.
I think that's a really good topic for us to address at some point, because
I
I
think
think
so.
I find that a lot that that women tend to be a little bit more flexible in the relationship.
Yeah.
As you just said, your wife had to be. Now, I'm finding that to be a pattern.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
men are a little bit more rigid. It takes them a while to kind of overcome.
Yeah.
Um, Not that they cannot, but it just takes them a while. Yeah.
Well, it's true. I think that's a very good point to it. We're going to make that a topic to
Mhm,
conversate, to have a conversation about one of our
mhm,
live in the very near future.
mhm, mhm,
But today we're going to tackle this question because, again, I think this wife represents so many wives in relationships
mhm.
where their husband, in her mind, she's the one who labels him this way, a
Yeah.
very selfish person. So, and she said he only, and these are some strong words, right? He only cares about his work
Mhm.
and never really bothers himself about me. She says,
Hmm.
I have been tolerant for many years now, but I can't take it anymore. I
Mhm.
also work full time and, take care of the house. What should I do? So, where would you want to start with this question that came in trying to
Hmm.
answer and unpack this question for this wife?
I think I first want to, congratulate her for reaching out. You
Mhm.
know, it's interesting because as we've been working through these questions for some time now, we started doing this from Instagram to here. Part of what I'm finding as a pattern is that it seems like it's the women who are crying out,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah, yeah,
And so and it takes a lot. I think what that tells me is one, not that the men don't want their marriage. I think the women are desperately trying to pull from wherever they can get answers to help the relationship. So, kudos to her. We want to celebrate her
yeah.
for wanting to find solutions.
I agree.
Um, you know,
I agree.
and
Yeah,
it's hard. It's hard to, because when I hear her letter, the first thing I'm hearing is that her marriage has gotten pretty lonely,
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right? Um, Seems like she is struggling because she needs a companion, and it doesn't seem that that companion exists within the relationship currently.
Yeah, yeah. I could see that. I could see that.
Mhm, mhm,
I think you said some couple of things interesting very earlier. I think I wanted to. Yeah,
mhm.
you're right about women being. I think women are a whole lot more relationship centric than men are, and I'm in my work, and of course in your work, I've
Yeah.
seen that majority of spouses who come in, even to initiate a therapy, are women.
Mhm,
Because they will drag their husband, or he will come, but she was the one who set everything up, or may have come initially and then invites
mhm,
him into that journey.
mhm,
Because again, women, they're a thing, which is a good thing. Somebody has to, and she is more focused on the relationship and what is important. I think for men, like you said, it's not that we are totally oblivious of our responsibility and our need to be focused on the relationship. We just don't have it as a priority or as a forefront thing as wives do. And
mhm.
I think God kind of created that way, that somebody had to, and He gave her. I think He wired women in that way where she is a bit more high. Yeah, I would say aware and know what's needed about
Mhm.
for relationships.
Mhm. Mhm. Yes, I mean, I'm finding that. And I think what can get tricky is that sometimes it's hard for women to see that as a gift,
Oh,
right? It because they're coming from a human standpoint.
mhm.
So all they feel is the pain of being alone, the pain of not having that person that they can share self with.
Mhm.
But I think you do make a good point that is, women are created
Yeah, yeah,
to be more in tune with that desire for attachment, it
yeah,
seems.
yeah.
Mhm,
Yeah, and I think that's where even go back to creation. And when God created the man, his responsibility primary was to tend the field.
mhm,
So he was to till the ground and do those things. And she came alongside to support and become that person that helped him become, be his helpmate. And I think I see that kind of pattern naturally in relationships where the wife is the one who would advocate for, we need to spend some time. We need to get you as husband back into the into the mix of things. The kids
Mhm.
need you. I need you. And I think it's healthy, but sometimes we as men will protest that because we see it as controlling. We see it as trying to get in the way and not being supportive of whatever we're working on. So it can become
Mhm.
an issue. And I wonder in this case, what was happening and what led to this man where he became, so in her words, only cares about his work and never really bothers himself about me. I wonder what led to that.
That's right. That's a good question, and that's the gap that we don't have to fill in
Hmm.
here. But we
Hmm.
know that there are many reasons why someone could get that way, right? I mean, a big part of what I find when people are that way, especially with men, is that it's the inability to communicate
Hmm. Yeah.
effectively,
Hmm.
right? It's them not knowing how to really talk about feelings. That's what
Yeah.
it comes down to. So what
Hmm.
do? They shut down, they withdraw, and they remove self, and they plunge into work, or they plunge into other things,
Yeah.
or other people.
Yeah.
So I think it sounds like a big part of this could be that maybe the husband is not comfortable with hard conversations. I know you're about to do a workshop on that, right?
Yes. Hmm.
Helping couples to have to, because it's so important
So
to
important.
be able to have those hard conversations
Yeah.
and to just be friends where they can just communicate, right?
Yes.
I was talking to someone today about that, but it really is important for us to be able to have that kind of relationship where we can just talk.
Yeah.
And if you are avoiding conflict and avoiding conflict, then you're going to plunge yourself into work or anything to distract you,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
so
And I think you just put your finger on something that this husband, he could be as a way of escape. It could be also, like you said, plunging himself into work to avoid something, right?
mhm,
So again, we just don't have all the information because if we had him and ask him about the situation with his wife, he may say that he would rather be at work and put himself into work than having to deal with possibly whatever he's experiencing, because some relationships are that way where that husband feel like again, it's just not necessarily a husband and a wife thing, but it happens in a relationship where sometimes people do different things to escape and
mhm,
avoid the
mhm,
the conflict, avoid what may happen. And so again, we have mentioned last week, sometimes, as the Bible says, and again Solomon says this, that
yeah.
it's better to live in the corner of a house than to be with a contentious or a nagging wife, because some wives unfortunately can be that way.
Mhm.
And of course, I mean, I'm sure a man could be also, but I think primarily a woman can be that way. So I don't know if this wife, in his
Mhm.
mind, is his way of um getting away from her.
Yeah, it could be. She could be a nagger, and that's possible. Then again, I just sometimes I hesitate with that, because while it's true that some women can be naggers, I also know that for many wives, part of the reason why they're seen as naggers is because they so want to talk sometimes.
Very good point. Very
They
good
just
point.
want to talk. They want to work things out. Now, they may not know the right way to do it. They may not know the way, they may not have all the tools to know how to have the kind of conversation that they want to have where the man could be receptive to it. But yet they want to talk, you
Yeah,
know.
you're
And
right.
if the man is shutting down and pulling away, then she's going to continue to pursue. And the more she pursues, it looks like she's nagging.
That's true. You're right. I guess I was telling someone recently. I said, they assign the label to that person, in this case to the wife, that she is a nag, right?
Mhm,
Because again, it could be her way of trying to connect. You said so a very brilliant point you made earlier, a very good point,
mhm,
and that is she may be very lonely and trying to connect, and
mhm,
he sees that as her maybe trying to control and
mhm,
dictate what he does with his time. I
mhm,
was talking to someone, and they somehow, one of the spouses said that very same thing, that they feel like they should not be treated as a child, be told what to do with their time. And
mhm,
again, they're protesting by doing what they want to do, regardless of what the other spouse does say. So I can
mhm,
understand she may be trying to reach out to him and pursuing him, and he's distancing himself from her. And the more she pursues him, the more he distances himself and work longer on hours, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the more he distances himself, the more he puts a gap in the relationship.
Yes.
That creates a kind of rupture within the relationship that makes it difficult to repair. So then you keep
Mhm.
getting into that rupture, after rupture after rupture, and now she's saying he just doesn't care because
Yeah.
that's what it feels like. That's what that rupture feels like, that he just doesn't care.
Yeah. Yeah. Because she did say that he only cares about his work and
Mm-hmm.
never really bothers himself. And she, again, that the word is, he never bothers himself. So we have talked about that also, that there's, there's these words that I call universal words that are, that never, always, those words can truly create and lock a person into a very rigid way of interpreting their relationship. So when
That's
she
right.
said he never really bothers himself, I think if he heard her saying that, he would
Mm-hmm.
probably again say, that's not true. That's not, how can you say I never ever bothers myself with you? And
Mm-hmm.
he could now that become an argument. So I think we've said before, try to avoid these words in your communication,
Mm-hmm.
always and never and
Mm-hmm.
everybody and all the
Mm-hmm.
time. Those
Mm-hmm.
things can be so rigid that the person feels like, well, I guess I can never win this, because if I never do you, if I never love you, never said a kind word, always doing these things, what am I going to say at this point?
Yeah, that's right. You make a very good point. Those, all or nothing statements, right?
Yes.
And also when we have people, it could be a man or a woman, when we have people who are conflict avoidant, part of it is because they're performers, right? They want to be able to be. It's almost like they're looking forward to being graded,
Mhm.
and if I perform well, you're going to want to be around me, you're going to want to be friends with me, you're going to want to be my partner. So if you are sounding as if I'm not performing well because I'm hearing criticism,
Yeah.
you always, you only, if I'm hearing criticism, automatically I feel like I've already failed. So what's
Yes.
the need to try?
Right. Right. Because he's saying you already made up your mind, and what am I going to ever try? Why do I need to try? Like you just said, a very, very good point you're
Mm-hmm.
making. And she also said, I think she's also advocating for the fact that, you know, if he's using work, like he's working, she's simply saying, I also work a full-time job, she says, and take care of the house. And so she's appealing to I would say, appealing to him to say, listen, I'm tired, or can I have some of your time? I heard this story, which may have been one you may have heard before, but I think I was reminded of the story where this little boy, he saw how his dad was so busy and never had time for him. And so the little boy said to his dad, Dad, how much money do you make per hour? And the dad said, I make $20 per hour. The boy said, okay. And so the little boy began to take all his pennies, all his little change, and put together. And one day he got to as far as $10. And so he went to his dad and said, Dad, here, I want to have to give you $10. Can I have half an hour of your time? And so he was willing to pay for half of the time. He didn't have $20 to give his dad for the full hour. So he said, can I have even $10, half hour of your time? He was desperate to have time with his dad.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder if this wife is not finding herself so desperate that she's looking for time, and she's tired. She said, I work full time. I take care of the house, and I just seem almost like, what's the point?
Mm-hmm.
Is my recognition? Where's my acknowledgement? It seems like you're kind of running away from me and pulling away from me, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
tired. I'm hearing that in her voice in that question she asked.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's right. And as we're talking about it, I'm thinking, imagining her sitting in session with you, right? Um, what will be some of the things that you will be asking her in terms of how has she contributed? Because we know every relationship,
Yes.
you know, all of the high times, as I call them, we all share in the high times and we all share equally in the low times,
Mhm.
right? So we all contribute to the problem.
Yes.
So how would you, what questions would you be exploring with her
Mhm.
as relates to how she is contributing to this problem in the marriage?
Yeah, and it's a good question. I think what I would my first thing would be is trying um to unearth or to put up these stakes around these words like never, because I think I her belief system drives her behavior. So if she
Mm-hmm.
believe her husband, number one, is selfish,
Mm-hmm.
then that belief is going to blind her to the times when he's not being selfish. And I would like her to see that there might be something there about her husband that she truly likes. One of the questions I love to ask, in couples, I would say, tell me, what is one thing about your husband or your wife that you like the most? And I use the word most. So there's, like, so you like the most about him or her. Tell me
Mm-hmm.
one thing you like the most, or you about your husband or your wife. And it's interesting that they are going to find something that they like. They may not like everything, but they're going to find one thing. And
Correct.
what I'm trying to do is build this idea that this husband or this wife is not everything you've said he or she is, this
Mm-hmm.
bad person per se, or this
Mm-hmm.
selfish person. Because I would think, I don't know how long she'd been married to this man in this question, but for
Mm-hmm.
her to have been there, and she said, I have tolerated. So she's been around for some time. It sounds like
Yeah.
that means it can't be all that he's always that selfish all the time she's been with him. So if
Mm-hmm.
I can find a time when he may not be as selfish, is allowing her to change and reframe her thinking. Because if she can move away from that slightly, then I think she can begin to look at specifically what is her needs. Because I think we have our wants, our needs, and our desires, right? Our wants, our needs, and desires. What is it she really wants? What does she desire?
Mm-hmm.
What does she need? And then help her to express that, because sometimes maybe it's how she's approaching him that's
Mm-hmm.
also hurting. So I want to know those things. I want to know what goes on. How have she been trying to attempt to connect with him? What's that been like? And have there been ever a time that it has worked? Because if I can find
Mm-hmm.
a time it has worked, then suppose we did more of those things. That's my.
Mm-hmm.
What about
Yeah,
you?
I like that. That actually where I would have started would be at that final comment you just made, which is,
Mhm.
tell me when things were working well
Yeah,
between the two of you, what did that look like?
yeah,
And trying to pull from some of that again. And the
yeah,
reason I think it's important for us to share this is because if you are watching this person or anybody who is listening to this and you're having a similar experience, it's really helpful sometimes to
yes,
go back and reflect on the times when things were going well in your relationship. And the reason is because back then you didn't have a lot of negative memories to live on. So what you were doing was you were trying to find new things, possibilities, things to excite you every day. And if you can go back to that place, you can start to again look for some possibilities, right?
hmm,
What are some of the things that we could be doing to talk a little more? Maybe it's removing the criticism
yes,
and all of those things or those behaviors that will hinder
hmm,
closeness between the two of you,
yeah,
removing some of them from the conversation, even if you have a reason to hold on to those things.
yes,
Because again, this is not about dismissing what you're feeling. Your feeling is could be very real to you. Maybe
of
he
course.
is being selfish. Maybe he is using work and avoiding you. All of those things could be really true. At the same time, if you want a relationship, then somebody has to change the cycle,
Yes,
right? So if
yes,
you say, you know what, I'm tired of this cycle we're on, this is not working for us. So what I'm going to do is ask him for us to have 30 minutes together, maybe tomorrow over the weekend. And for the 30 minutes, we're not going to talk about any problems that we have. We're just going to focus on some of the things that we truly enjoy
mm,
when we're together with each other.
hmm,
And talk about those things that we like about each other. Just focus
mm,
on positive things and see what happens in the atmosphere.
mm. That's good. That's good. And I think, which I think sometimes what you just did is, how can we even stop this bleeding? And maybe even the idea of, suppose she was to take, say, 24 to 36 hours and only concentrate on the things she's grateful for about her husband.
Mm-hmm.
about their marriage and their relationship, and begin to look at that through that lens. It's
Mm-hmm.
surprising that but as even Jesus says, right? Seek and you shall find. The thing you seek for, you're going to find. So
Mm-hmm.
it's amazing that if she put on the lens of gratitude, what she could possibly come up with that could truly transform how she's thinking. I forgot
Mm-hmm.
who said this, made this statement that says, change the way, no, if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at changes, right? And so sometimes it's just us to have a different lens to look at things that we are seeing only one way. But if we pull zoom out, we can go back to the refresh, hit a refresh button, and the refresh button may bring up things that we may have forgotten. So on my computer, sometimes I had to
Mm-hmm.
refresh my computer because for whatever reason it's lagging, it's not working as it's supposed to
Mm-hmm.
work. But the refresh button is there for a reason. It's to
Mm-hmm.
create allow the system to run a bit smoother and to get rid of the things that may have been, bugging the system. And sometimes
Mm-hmm.
a refresh in our relationship, maybe as you describe, step back and say, hey, let's just talk about the things we have been doing well and what we enjoy about each other. And that's a
Mm-hmm.
refresh button. And
Mm-hmm.
surprisingly, that could give life to their relationship beyond where they're at right now.
Mm-hmm. That's right. That's right. It again, it's so easy for us to get stuck when
Mm,
when we feel hurt in a relationship, and that hurt drags out, and we don't feel like our partner is willing to hear us, because that's really what she's asking for based on her message. I
mhm.
want him to talk to me. I want him to hear me, to feel me. One of the things that we crave in life is to know that the people that we love and care about, that they too love and care about our thoughts and feelings, right? So if she feels as if he doesn't care about her thoughts, he doesn't care about her feelings, then she's going to be in this place of constant protest.
Yes,
But at some point, we have to stop protesting and go back to the drawing board.
I agree.
So
Yeah.
going back to the drawing board will be exactly what we're talking about, which is, okay, this isn't working. I'm complaining and he's not hearing me. Maybe we're even fighting about this. It's not healthy for us. So
Hmm.
at the end of the day, how could we do this differently? Let's
Hmm.
figure out something else. Let's plan more time that we connect instead of the
Hmm.
times that we're going to disconnect.
Hmm. Yeah, that's good. I think I like that idea because I think it's really, again, what you focus on, you get more of what you focus on. So if you're
Mhm.
focused on the connection point, you'll get that. And I find it's amazing how sometimes if we just tweak what we're doing just slightly, because as we know, to keep on doing the very same things you always do, expecting different results is insanity.
Right.
And what has gotten them to where they are is not going to get them to where she wants to go. So something
Mm-mm.
has to change, right? Something has to give, like you said. And the question
Mhm.
is, what might that look like? And I'm very even curious when she says that, he only cares about his work and never really bothers himself. Maybe again, for some men, their identity is in what they do, and maybe work becomes a place where he can feel like acknowledged or recognized or given the props and all the different things that come along with that. So he's going to go where he can get more of the things that stroke his ego, right? And
Mhm.
I'm not saying it should not be from his wife, but if he's not getting it there, the
Mhm.
reason why he may be doing that is because work is not that he wants to work so much, and we're just kind of make it building a story. It could
Mhm.
be that he finds himself where work becomes that place where he's recognized, that he's cheered, is he's acknowledged, and he's and so of course we're gonna go where we get more of those kind of things.
Mhm. Mhm. Right. And so, that is true. So then it brings me to this place of, because someone may be watching, you may have a lady watching who maybe is dealing with the same thing.
Hmm.
And she may say, well, I've tried these things. I've tried talking to him for us to, focus on just the friendship in the relationship. I've tried um, bonding with him. And still, he's still disconnected. He's still going to work and focusing on that. What
Hmm.
what would you say?
Wow, that's a big one. Here's what I think, though. I think it's then she probably needs to find a way to, number one, self care, right? How does she then do what she only can do is make sure she take care of her mental, emotional, and physical health, And so maybe that's where, again, she's tried all these different things. Then I would suggest to her, the only thing you can control is you, right?
Mhm.
So, what are some things you're doing for yourself to really help you in your own personal life, personal development? What are some things that you find that you could um, deposit in your life that brings joy? And because I do believe that in a marriage, we should not only depend on our spouse to fulfill us, because they can't give us everything we want or need in our lives. They should give us the primary things. But I believe that we've got to also find a way. And how I look at it is, I said, how, one of my beliefs is that every relationship, it ought to have an independent component and an interdependent component. So the independent is where you're going and you get fueled in yourself in some things, of course, positive things, healthy things. Of course, would ever suggest anything else but that. But when you do that, like for me, you know, um, getting on a call and brainstorming things about online things, or playing a game, or watching soccer, that's me fueling myself in what I enjoy. But
Mhm.
once I am energized by that, I can take that back to the relationship and then but interact with my wife and vice versa. So I would think and ask the question, what is she probably doing? I would say, how are you caring for yourself? What are you doing? So whatever that may look like, because sometimes she's so focused on him and probably looking for him to meet all of her needs that she
Mhm.
forget about herself. And
Mhm.
sometimes wives do that. They unfortunately forget about themselves because they're so they're nurturers, and that happens so many times in relationships.
Mhm. I love that. I love that because maybe too, when she starts to focus on herself and all of that attention is not on him and
There
what
you go.
he's not doing well and what he's not, doing
There
for
you
the
go.
relationship, he may then have the space to breathe
There
and
you go.
actually turn around to at least seek her out and find out what's
Exactly.
going on. So I like that point a lot because I think
That's
it's
great.
important for us to have that out. And because the truth is that sometimes you do have um, husbands or men in general who really don't like conflict. They
Right.
don't
Oh
like
yes.
difficult conversations. So they could really pull away. And I've
Yes.
seen that happen in many marriages, and it can bring a
Hmm.
lot of tension. So I like that because instead of her being so focused on him and
Hmm.
hounding him down,
Right.
giving that space may be very helpful. Hmm.
Yes. Yeah. I'm telling you. I mean, I know, speaking from personal experience, I said, when my wife is able to advocate, do things that really she likes, that she may go and do her hair or her nails, or go and walk to the mall without me, because I mean, I'm not the person who goes shopping. I don't
Right,
I don't
right,
love that, right? But
right.
when she does, I enjoy the fact that she's out there having doing that thing that for her, that pleases
Hmm.
her, that satisfies her. And when she
Hmm.
gets back from that, she feels so fired up that she was able to get her hair or her nails or go to the store and window shop, whatever she does. And she comes back and she's energized by that. She can deposit that now in the relationship, but it also
Hmm.
gave me a time to be able to have the freedom. So when she
Yes.
gets back, I'm there. So I think that's a very good point you're making, that it breathing rooms created. And so if she may want to do that, then he won't feel as if she's always like, hounding him, or feel like he she looks to him for everything to meet all of her needs and he's tired.
Mhm.
So I think that's a very good point of if she did those things, like
Mhm.
I said, that breathing room being created would be good for the relationship.
Yes, yes, I think so. I also like the question, Kingsley, from time to time. Um, what do you feel like you're needing in this marriage that you're not getting?
Mm. Hmm.
Because there could be something that he's missing and he's not
Hmm.
talking about. And so she would not be able to give him that thing because she doesn't know it. And
Hmm.
she could be trying to give him everything that he doesn't need at the
Hmm.
moment.
That's true.
Because our needs change based on our stage of life,
I
right?
agree.
We all have different developmental stages that we're in at any given time.
Yep.
And something that I may have needed 10 years ago, I may not need now. So
Hmm.
it's important for you to be able to say to your partner, what is it that you need at this stage in the relationship that you're not getting?
Mhm.
And she may be
Good
surprised what
question.
happens. Hmm.
Very good question. I like that. I think I love that question. That's really, it allows them to kind of pull back a little bit and be able to voice even that very
Hmm.
the specific nature of the question, because I think sometimes we just don't ask those questions. What do I really need?
Right.
What am I looking for? You
That's
know,
right.
and
Exactly.
it might surprise us that when we are honest and truth to ourselves and be very vulnerable to, hey, you know what, let me just be honest. This is what I'm really looking for. It's what I really need. And then, like I said earlier, to voice that. How do you voice that to your partner, so he or
Hmm.
she can recognize that? Okay, how can I give that to you? How can I make that possible for the
Hmm.
relationship's sake? You know.
Hmm. Correct. Exactly. Because sometimes it's that we know, right? The both of us know from having done this work for a while that sometimes people come in and they're frustrated and angry and they don't even know why
Yeah.
because they have not identified what they need, but they
Exactly.
feel the emotions, but they
Hmm.
don't know what they need and why they feel this so strongly.
Hmm. You know, I think that's a very, very, very good point, because I think I've seen that. I mean, I have had clients who basically I ask those questions at the very beginning,
Hmm.
and I've heard sometimes, you know, I really just don't know. I just wanted to, just looking for some place to talk. I'm just looking for to get something off my chest, or I'm just looking for, and yes, I hear all those different things, but there's got to be something below that that they probably don't haven't had a chance to either identify or put words to. And that's why it's a very good question to confront that and say, well, what do you really need? What are you looking for? You know?
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Well, well, I know that we kind of started a little bit late today. We are at the 45 minutes point, in which we kind of, that's where our max we were at to go there. But
Hmm.
I think this is a very good question. We kind of really covered so many different areas. And what I love
Hmm.
about these questions, it gives us the ability to go in so many
Yeah.
different directions, right?
Yeah.
And I'm sure somebody who's listening and watching, one thing we said in one way maybe for them, and for somebody else it may hear us. So I really love this question, that and they're so broad, and the way we kind of approach them. So, you know, we had few watch people were watching today. We thank you for
Mhm.
watching, and some
Yes.
people have made some comments. You know, you're here, so we thank you. We see that,
Yes.
and
Yes.
thank you for sharing. Like I said, I put that up earlier, and so we thank you for participating. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for being here. And if you are watching this on a replay, we'd love to make sure you also put replay there, so we can actually know that you are watching this on a replay. And we'll say thank you as well in advance. And again, remember, we're here on Mondays at 6 p.m. We are going to be here to continue these conversations and answer questions as they come up. And if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. We'll answer as best as we can. If you want to remain anonymous, you can direct message us, you know, on any social media. For you, Goma, it's at Your Marriage Village,
Your Marriage Village. On
right?
Instagram, Facebook, it's the same. Your Marriage Village.
Your Marriage Village, and for me, it's at Kingsley Grant. And so,
Hmm.
any questions you have that you'd like for us to answer, and you want it to be anonymous, we'll respect that and do that. But we want to be offer a place to help and to just kind of be to trying to answer some questions that we think people are asking, because why we hear them so often.
Yeah.
And again, remember, this is not for your to take the place of your therapy. So you have to make sure you follow up and see your therapist, and don't say, "Hey, this is my therapy moment." No, it's not really. We
I
appreciate you
know.
saying that, but please, we want to make sure that we honor that we don't want to replace that work that needs to be done on a deeper level.
Yeah. That's correct. And if you again are watching with us when we started earlier in the show, you may notice that the volume is off, but
Mhm.
just give it about 5 or so minutes in, and it comes right up. We had some technical difficulties, so don't feel as if there's nothing there to watch. Just fast forward a little bit,
There you go.
and you'll be able to follow along with us. And yes, put your questions in. Invite others to the group so that when we come live on Mondays at 6 p.m., others will be able to also benefit from the conversation.
Awesome. Well, thank you for being here, and God bless you. And we'll see you next time, next Monday, 6 p.m., same time, same place. And we'll unpack more questions, and pay attention to the post that we'll broadcast ahead of time, at least a day off, what we're going to discuss that night. And that's maybe one of the many questions we'll try to answer. So please pay attention to that as well. So God bless you, and we'll see you next time. Bye bye.
See you soon, Kingsley.
Bye.